Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment is brought to you by Safety Systems, East Tennessee's most trusted name in security systems for your home or business. VFL J.J. Surlis and his team have protected people's property all over the area for more than 20 years. From a simple doorbell camera to a super system designed specifically for your property. Turn to Safety Systems. Tennessee football coach Josh Heupel turned to running backs coach Darrell Sims to replace Jerry Mack. Sims will arrive from Cincinnati, and the Bearcats this past season were 6th in the country in rush offense, so a good season running the ball with Sims coaching the running backs. And then at the linebackers coach position, as Tennessee had to replace Brian John Marie, he moves to Michigan. The Vols have hired William Inge, who was the co-defense coordinator at Washington, appeared slated to go to Alabama. I think Tennessee fans like that. Hey, we took somebody from Alabama, but he comes from Washington to Tennessee after coaching in the national championship game. Bob, thoughts on the hires? Darrell Sims coaching running backs, William Inge coming in to coach linebackers.
The one that really caught my eye was Inge, because if you look at his resume, I mean, that's a heck of a resume. Mm-hmm. The fact that you stopped him from going to Alabama, okay, yeah, that's a win. But his resume is long. It kind of guy that if you would have hired him as your defensive coordinator, you'd have gone, okay, that looks like a pretty solid hire. So getting him as your linebackers coach, I thought the interesting thing, Sims, much thinner resume, much younger guy, but he has had success at the places he's been. You mentioned what he'd done at Cincinnati. The one question I have about both of them, which hasn't been answered by any of the things, I've been out of town just reading what I could, is how are they as recruiters? Because I think that everything with UT's current coaching staff comes back to how good are these guys as recruiters? Do they help you there? I think as far as on the field, player development, they look like two really good hires. And once again, Inge looked like a fantastic hire. But are these guys recruiters, and how much are they going to help you there? But I think obviously Heupel did a solid job.
I think there's positives for both of them. I think there's questions about both of them to some degree as well. With Sims, in terms of recruiting, he's recruited a lot of players in the state of Tennessee. Josh, you follow recruiting. A lot of guys have reacted to the hiring of Sims and said, that's my dog, and he's been great, really good with relationships. And he's been recruiting guys to Louisville and Cincinnati from the state of Tennessee. So that helps in terms of networking. With Inge, he hasn't had a job in the Southeast. So where are those relationships? Will they keep him more positional recruiting versus territorial recruiting until he kind of gets that networking built? So that would be the one question. But listening to Inge and him mic'd up in press conferences, he's impressive, intelligent, cerebral. Sounds like a defensive coordinator, which he was at Washington. And Sims has had an upward trajectory in his gig. So I think there's plenty of positives there, plus energy.
Yeah, Sims a younger guy. With the changes we just talked about in college sports, you need a coach that understands how things are changing, and I think they hope that he is going to be that kind of coach from a recruiting standpoint or coaching. Guys, what do you think about the two hires?
Well, I think they're both great from a coaching standpoint. I think both of these guys seem to be able to develop their position group very well and to be really smart guys that can coach. I could get concerned that Tennessee doesn't have enough recruiters on this staff, and it can be hard if you're Josh Heupel. I mean, you don't want to go full Rob Niedermeyer, where a guy can't coach his way up a wet paper bag, but he can get you players, right, with bagfuls of money.
But he can carry a paper bag.
That's right, yeah. So you don't want to go fully that route, but I am concerned that with Tennessee's current staff right now, who are the recruiters, right? That's the one thing that I have to concern with this group of guys right now.
Sims has to be a good recruiter. Mm-hmm. At that position, look, we could be a good running back coach if we had Jamal Lewis, Travis Stevens, and Travis Henry, right? But he has to be a really good recruiter. He spent a year at Carson Newman, by the way, which probably doesn't have anything to do with him getting hired. So I think that's imperative for him. With Inge, you need to have a good recruiter there, but you also have to be a good coach and a player developer there. I think it's more important because there's more responsibility from a linebacker position in coaching how to do things than there is a running back. So it would help if both of them are great recruiters, but your running backs coach needs to be really good. We'll find out how good Sims is.
Yeah, both position groups have young players, second-year players, that they're hoping will make a big jump. Arion Carter and Jeremiah Thielander at linebacker, and then at running back, They have to replace 2 key guys from last season. So Cameron Seldon learning the position. Vince, what kind of jump can he make? Khalifa Keith, and then Peyton Lewis is a freshman that will have a chance to play too.
Yeah, not a big group, but talent. There's 4-star guys in that room in different classes. So I think that's definitely a positive. And, he has the proven productivity, does Sims, in working with those guys. So I imagine maybe even some of them he did recruit as well as part of the process. So I think Sims will, from a coaching standpoint, will fit in smoothly. And then Inge as well. That's a Tim Banks hire. Let's be honest. Tim Banks wanted someone that can fit what he does, and that's a really veteran. That's another 50-plus-year-old coach on that staff.
I was just going to say, as far as the coaches and the recruiting, which is also my big question, but the one thing that I've liked about Heupel in the years he's been here, they do develop guys. And okay, if you're not great recruiters, but you are getting the max out of what you get on campus, you can't undersell that, because his predecessor, they brought in better players, and they didn't seem like they could develop anybody. So there is something to be said for, they're good coaches, they're not great recruiters. Okay, that's not the worst thing in the world.
And Tennessee finishes outside the top 10 in the recruiting rankings this year, but they do finish in the blue chip ratio. And so as we get closer and closer to that, and you can get in the blue chip ratio, and you have developers of talent, I think that you can still have a whole lot of success, especially in a 12-team playoff where it's not just beauty pageant. Did you make the top 4? You're in, you're out.
Well, another part of that is it'd be helpful if you're good recruiting out of the portal as well. And maybe there's some contacts there that could help you.
Inge might have some West Coast contacts that could help with players you're trying to bring in, whether we're talking about this upcoming spring or even looking a year from now. And to Bob's point, the better you develop, the more you do have to sell on the recruiting.
And with the win over the NCAA, how does the recruiting go? I mean, better tires are back on the table.
Yeah, and I don't think there were concerns the last couple of weeks with the news out. I don't think there were big concerns among recruits. But this helps that you have this win from the court case on Friday.
Well, you're talking about what the coaches have in terms of talent at those 2 positions. It helps Inge that he's got Keenan Paley. To be another coach on the field. That's going to help with the transition in a lot of ways in that room.
When we come back here on the Sports Source, speaking of the 12-team format, it's out. There also could be an even bigger playoff format to talk about in the future. We'll give you details next.